there! I'm Sprinkles, Santa Claus's special elf. Because everything is special with sprinkles. Santa Claus knows you're special too, and he has something to say to you. So listen close as Santa Claus shares holiday cheer with you. You can leave a special message for Santa Claus and get on the nice list at www.santaclaussays.net. Now here is the big man himself, Santa Claus!
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas to the boys and girls of the world. I'm coming to see you very soon here on Christmas Eve. It's a wonderful time of year, isn't it? Christmas Eve is coming up tomorrow, and I'll be there before you know it. And so we got to get ready. So we're going to have one more this episode of Santa Claus Says, and then the special episodes on Christmas Eve tomorrow and Christmas Day, the day after that. Wonderful to be with you. Here at SantaClausSays.net, we do three things. The three things we do is we spread a little Christmas cheer, which we hope that you do as well in your world with your family and your friends. Be cheerful we tell a couple of jokes. We had a couple of knock-knock jokes here today for you. And then the second thing we do is we tell a Christmas story. We're going to finish up telling our Christmas story about it's called The Christmas at the Hollow Tree Inn. We're going to finish up that story here today. And we have a very special and colorful letter to Santa today. You can find all of this at SantaClausSays.net. And that's where you can find our podcast and our YouTube channel. That's at the YouTube channel is youtube.com/Santa Claus Says. And then the podcast you can find at SantaClausSays.net, as well as at Apple Podcast and on Spotify. Well, boys and girls, there's the chimes, which means it's time for a couple of knock-knock jokes for Christmas time here. Knock, knock. Who's there? Elf. Elf who? Elf finished wrapping the presents right away. Here's another one. Knock, knock. Who's there? Butter who? You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Oh, those are fun knock-knock jokes. If you've got any jokes to send me, send them along at SantaClausSays.net. I would love to hear them. Well, boys and girls, there's the glockenspiel. That means it's story time. We're going to finish up our story about the Christmas at the Hollow Tree Farm, and that's where Christmas at Hollow Tree Inn, and we left the story out. They were getting ready to try to celebrate Christmas, and let's pick up the story. Well, it says here, they had a hard time getting things ready. He found out that the long wool out in Mr. Man's barn for his beard, and he put on some of the edges of his overcoat, boot tops, and hat. Then he brought a big sack and filled it with nice things. He had some neckties for the Hollow Tree people, and big striped candy canes, and a new pipe for each, and a package of tobacco. And then he started out all dressed up like Santa Claus with his bag slung over his shoulder. His bag got heavier and heavier, and he was glad to get to the hollow tree and find the latch string out. He set the bag down to rest a minute and listen. All he could hear was Mr. Cow, Mr. Crow, Mr. Raccoon, and Mr. Possum breathing pretty low, and he knew they might wake up any minute, so he slipped into the parlor. When he got up, he almost had to laugh right out, for there were the stockings all hung up in a row, and a card with a name on each one. He opened his bag and filled the stockings with mixed candy and nuts, and the pipes and tobacco and candy canes. I tell you, they looked fine. He forgot about anyone walking and sat down in a nice rocking chair in the corner and took a look at the stockings. He thought how pleased they'd be in the morning and how tired he was. You've heard about people being as tired as a dog, and that day was just how Mr. Dog felt. By and by, he went sound asleep right there in his chair with all his Santa Claus clothes on. There he sat all night long, and even when it came morning, he slept right on. Then pretty soon Mr. Possum poked his head out, then Mr. Crow and Mr. Raccoon did too. They all looked toward the stockings, and they didn't see Mr. Dog or even each other. All they saw was their stockings, though, and Mr. Raccoon said all at once, "Oh, there's something in my stocking." And Mr. Crow said, "Oh, there's something in my stocking, too." And Mr. Possum said, "Oh, there's something in all of our stockings." And with that, they all gave a great hurrah together and rushed out and grabbed their stockings and turned around just in time to see Mr. Dog jump straight up out of his chair, for he did not know where he was at the least in that moment. "Oh, there's Santa Claus himself!" they all shouted together and made a rush for their rooms, for they were scared almost to death. But it all dawned on Mr. Dog in a second, and he began to laugh to think what a joke it was on everybody. When they heard Mr. Dog laugh, they knew him right away, and they all came up, and he had to tell just what he had done. So they emptied their stockings and ate some of their presents and looked at each other until they almost forgot about breakfast, just as children do on Christmas morning. Then Mr. Crow said he'd make a little coffee and that Mr. Dog must stay and have some. And by they made him promise to spend the day with them. It was snowing hard outside, and it snowed so hard that Mr. Dog decided to stay all night, and after dinner they all sat around the fire and told stories. And Mr. Crow and Mr. Possum and Mr. Raccoon had the very nicest Christmas there ever was at Hollow Tree or in the big deep woods. Anywhere. That's a wonderful story, boys and girls. And I want to remind you that we've told a lot of stories this Christmas time. You can go back and you can find all these stories at our website, santaclaussays.net, and they're all there on our podcast, which you can find there at santaclaussays.net and on Apple Podcast and on Spotify. And you can find them all as well on youtube.com/Santa Claus Says. Well, there's the glockenspiel, boys and girls, which means it's time for our letter to Santa. Our letter to Santa today is from Elizabeth, and Elizabeth says that she would like 3 things for Christmas: a colorful marker, colorful crayons, and a color by number coloring book. Ho, 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 ho. And it looks like Elizabeth loves to color. Well, one of the things I love, Elizabeth, is little girls and little boys who love to express themselves with art. And I hope that you can continue to do just that by drawing pictures and have coloring books and crayons and markers and all that good, everything good to make beautiful pictures. Maybe you can even draw a picture of Santa Claus. What do you think? I'll be coming to see you soon. I'll have surprises for you. And I hope that you will have, for me, cocoa and cookies. Remember, if you have a letter for Santa, even though here it is at Christmas, I receive mail all year round. You can do that by going to santaclaussays.net, and that's where you can leave me a voicemail or a text message or an email. Well, there's the glockenspiel, boys and girls, which means it's just about time to say goodbye for santaclaussays.net. I want to remind you that we have a special show tomorrow, Christmas Eve, December 24th, where we will read The Night Before Christmas and All Through the House. We're going to read that story. You're going to want to hear that. It's a very special read of that story. Then we have the reading of the Christmas story itself on December 25th, on Christmas Day. And I want you to I want you to be here for that story as well. So that is the most important story ever. We read from the Bible the story of the birth of Jesus Christ. That's the most important thing about Christmas, is the birth of Jesus. We celebrate Jesus's birthday. Much more important than Santa Claus or all the presents and all the decorations is Jesus. So you will be with me in those special shows, Christmas Eve tomorrow and Christmas Day on December 25th for those special stories here on santaclaussays.net. Don't forget that Santa Claus loves you and listens to you and is always here for you. And until we see you again, boys and girls, Santa Claus says, be good for goodness sakes. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, ho. See you soon. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.
You're special to Santa Claus, just like sprinkles. Get on Santa's nice list at SantaClausSays.net and watch Santa Claus Says live on YouTube. Tell him Sprinkles sent you.